Okay, so you'll launch into Photoshop, and you'll know you're there because it's right here. Once you've launched into Photoshop, go to File, and you're going to drag down to Open. And after Open, go to the Shared folder. In the Shared folder, there is a folder, in the Shared folder under Collaboration. So find your class period. There is a folder that says Photoshop folder, and in the Photoshop folder, there are a handful of cartoon coloring book pages that you can pick from. So we're just going to start with this simple coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Big Hero 6. And then you just open that. And you're going to start with your basic tools in Photoshop. So some of your selection tools, and you're going to find your paint bucket tool. If you click right here, you'll find your paint bucket tools just underneath your gradient tool. You have your paintbrush tool, and there's pencil tool, so you'll find a few of those there. Then the other thing is looking for your selection tools if you're selecting round or rectangle. Under the lasso tool, this will allow you to select stuff that you kind of scroll through. And the one we really want is our magic wand tool. That's what you'll be using mostly today. So once you have the magic wand tool, that selects by color pixels. And just kind of follow along and see what happens here. I have like tolerant and contiguous right here. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this background and I want to just color that in. So I'm going to click right there, and it's only, see how we get the marching ants, it's only selecting the areas that are touching that have the exact same color pixels. And then I want to dump in a color back here. So I'm going to come over here to my color and just decide what color I want. We'll do grab my paint bucket, and I'm going to go ahead and dump that color in. So I've got color in here. Then I'm going to go through and select different things. And you can see right here, I missed where there's white because it wasn't touching. So I'm going to go back to my magic wand tool, and I'm going to hold Shift, and it gives me a plus sign. That way I can select little spots where I know I want that same blue background. And I'm going to dump color in. But I wanted to dump it in everything that's selected, so what I'm going to do is come off the contiguous, click that off, and now it'll dump it in anywhere that I have selected. So there's a little spot right there that I've missed. I think everything else. Okay, now that I have all this, if I want to make any changes, what's wrong? The feet? Right there. Okay, there we go. Okay, then the next thing I want to do is, because sometimes I want to select all this blue, so I want to, let's just say I want to do something in the background, like add a gradient. So if I select this and I only have the outline like everywhere, I don't want to hold Shift and select all those little spots, because then if I add like some gradient to it, like I did right there, you can see it didn't change anything here because that wasn't selected. So I'm going to Command Z and do that. So I'm going to grab my magic wand tool, and I'm going to click off contiguous, and what that's going to do is now it'll select, when I have the selection tool, it will select anything that matches that color pixel. So it's selected everything. So then if I want to go ahead and use my gradient tool, I'm going to use it just down here, to there. You can see it affected that background too. Then I can go through, and the other thing I want to show you is I have stuff that's selected. So if I want to use my paintbrush tool, I can change my size, I can change, and I have my opacity light. Because what I want to do is kind of create some highlights or some shadows. So I'm just going to go grab here. I'm just going to grab a little bit of darker color, hit OK. And again, I have my opacity not at 100% because I want it light. And I'm actually going to change my paintbrush size down a little bit smaller. Can you see how I'm starting to create kind of a shadow effect back there? And if I want it darker, I can keep going darker. Just create some kind of cool, it makes it like kind of pop out. You can play around with where you want the shadows to show up. I want them high, darker right here. I can make my paintbrush, or I could just go through, instead I want to have almost kind of a crazy painted effect back there. I could pick a color, change my opacity. I'm just going to keep it at 100%. That's not 100, that's 100. And see how when I paint back there, it only paints behind or where what I have selected. So I'm not painting over my colors. If I went like this and painted over nothing selected, it's going to paint the whole thing. So you really want to pay attention to your selection tool and what you're selecting. But the one thing too is now that that's happened, if I try to select my background color again with my Magic Wand tool, you can see there's problems with the color pixels because now they've changed. I've added that shading. So you want to kind of watch that. Okay. So you're going to add color, and then you're just going to kind of go through and just start painting and coloring in. So it's the color, and I want to make sure I have contiguous. And it's just playing with your paintbrush, coloring book, and filling these in. And then once you guys get a page set up and it's colored in, we'll go through and add some more details. But I want you to just go through and like select his shirt. But you'll have to hold shift, and sometimes you'll want to magnify in so you can really see some of the details. And again, hold shift so you can select all his shirt. So then when I go to turn his shirt to color, and if I miss that spot, you can deselect and you can actually, that's what I wanted you to see. I can click in, but I want you to see that it colored everything. The reason is there was a little gap, so I'm going to undo, come up here and look and see why would that have colored everything in. So I actually want to click on contiguous because I want to make sure that it only colors in the areas that are contained. So now I can go through and just by clicking I can color anything I want yellow. So maybe I want his pants are going to be yellow. So it's coloring in anything that's contained in that little black area that was colored. So you just kind of keep working your way until you get your coloring book page colored in. And then go through and add some shading with your paintbrush. Oh, that wasn't selected, so it wasn't letting me do that. So again, remember it has to be selected, so nothing was happening here when I was trying to color in because it's not selected. So again, you're just going to go to Photoshop, File, Open, find the Photoshop folder, And there are a couple Big Hero 6. There's Minnie Mouse, Batman, Cars, and Gru, and the Minions. I want you to go through and pick from one of the ones I've selected, and then after that, you will be going and finding your own coloring book page of your favorite character. But for now, this is what I want you guys to start with, one of the ones I've selected. All right, I will let you get to work.